Welcome to this lesson on a dual-engine failure scenario in the Airbus A350, brought to you by the Autopilots. In this session, we'll begin with an introduction to the dual-engine failure scenario, exploring what it means and why it's such a critical event for any flight crew. From there, we'll examine the possible causes that could lead to a complete loss of thrust on both engines. Next, we'll take a closer look at the aircraft's capabilities during this emergency, focusing on its glide performance and how far the A350 can travel without engine power. After that, we'll move into the ECAM actions that must be performed step by step to stabilize the situation and begin troubleshooting. This will lead us into the engine relight procedure, where we'll go over how to attempt a restart in flight. Following the technical procedures, we'll discuss how to approach this failure from a management perspective, prioritizing tasks, using crew resource management, and maintaining situational awareness. We'll then wrap things up with a quick recap before transitioning into a practical demonstration, where we'll apply everything we've learned. Let's get started. An engine failure is a partial or complete loss of thrust, which can prevent the aircraft from maintaining level flight. While a single engine failure is a serious event, the complete loss of both engines presents a far more critical challenge requiring immediate and precise crew coordination. In such cases, a dual-engine failure scenario will most likely be detected by the flight warning computer, which will generate the all engines failure alert. This warning signals the start of a time-critical sequence, where altitude and energy become your most valuable assets. The ECAM procedure becomes your primary reference. It first helps you protect the flight by maximizing glide performance, allowing the aircraft to remain airborne for as long as possible while maintaining optimal control. Once stabilized, the ECAM then guides you through a structured engine restart attempt, offering the opportunity to recover thrust and regain control of the situation. If the relight attempt is unsuccessful, the procedure then transitions to preparing for the final phase of the emergency, whether that be a ditching or a forced landing, ensuring the crew is supported with clear, actionable guidance throughout. This lesson will guide you through each of these phases, focusing on both the technical procedures and the operational mindset required to manage a dual-engine failure effectively. While dual-engine failures are extremely rare, understanding their potential causes is essential, as this knowledge can directly influence how we respond to such an event. Let's have a deeper look at these causes. Environmental factors are among the more well-documented contributors. Volcanic ash ingestion, for example, can severely damage internal engine components, leading to flameout. Similarly, encounters with severe ice or hail can result in engine stall or failure due to disrupted airflow or mechanical damage. Mechanical failures, though uncommon, remain a possibility. These can stem from internal component failure, sensor malfunctions, or system degradation over time, often with little to no prior indication. Fuel-related issues also present a serious risk. A dual-engine failure may result from a major fuel leak, restricting supply to both engines, or from fuel contamination or clogging, which can disrupt combustion and cause both engines to shut down. Each of these scenarios demands a different approach, and identifying the likely cause early can be key to choosing the most effective response. Let's examine how the aircraft performs and what capabilities remain available in the event of a complete loss of thrust. Following an engine failure, the aircraft will generate the all engines failure ECAM. This gives the crew a step-by-step guide: protect the flight, attempt engine relight, and how to proceed if relight fails. Autopilot is available and should be used to significantly reduce workload. The ECAM will provide crew with a gliding distance, but a general rule of thumb is 2.5 nautical miles per 1,000 feet when in clean configuration, and 1.5 nautical miles per 1,000 feet when flaps or slats are extended. These figures also apply when in no wind conditions, so bear that in mind. The RAM air turbine, or the RAT, automatically deploys, and unlike most other Airbus aircraft, the APU automatically starts, reducing pilot workload. You remain in alternate law unless engines are recovered. However, automation is available. Some flight controls are lost, but others are maintained via the EHAs and EBHAs. And then the ECAM provides two types of procedures: full procedure and short procedure. The full procedure guides the crew through engine relight attempts, then prepares for ditching or forced landing if needed, whilst the short procedure covers the essential steps to configure the aircraft for ditching or forced landing. Now that we understand the aircraft's capabilities and the ECAM procedure for this scenario, let's take a closer look at how we manage the failure as a crew. As always, we follow the Airbus golden rules: aviate, navigate, and communicate. Under aviate, the priority is to stabilize the aircraft. Autopilot 1 becomes available shortly after the ram air turbine deploys. Autopilot 2 becomes available once the APU has started. With the autopilot engaged, the pilot flying should begin an immediate descent, select an appropriate speed for engine relight, and clearly announce the FMA. The recommended relight speed is usually shown on the ECAM, but always consider whether that speed is safe for your current altitude. In some cases, starting with green speed may be more suitable. Navigate is straightforward. If an airport is within range, turn towards it. If not, begin considering options for a forced landing or ditching based on your position and terrain. Under communicate, inform the cabin crew of the situation and make a mayday call to ATC as soon as possible. By following these steps, we ensure the situation is managed in a structured and effective way. If the engine relight attempts are unsuccessful, your ability to manage the failure becomes critical. This is where structured decision-making is essential. Let's take a closer look at how to apply the T-DODA model in this situation. T. Time. The amount of time available is directly influenced by your current altitude. However, regardless of altitude, time remains critical, making every minute essential for effective decision-making. D. Diagnosis. You have a dual engine failure. Relight attempts have been unsuccessful so far. You have a gliding distance of 2.5 miles per 1,000 feet. Consider what is the status of the aircraft. O. Options. Is there an airport near you? Will you be ditching or will it be a forced landing? D. Decide. Involve both crew members and pick the safest and most suitable option. Typically, the nearest reachable airport is preferred. Weather, NOTAMs, etc. are less relevant here. A. Assign. One crew member should be focused on flying the aircraft, whilst the other should be continuously attempting to relight the engine, manage checklists, and also liaise with ATC, crew and passengers. And R. Review. Your situation should be constantly reviewed. How is your altitude compared to your distance to go? Can you still make your plan? Relighting the engine remains the biggest priority for the crew. Airbus have carefully developed their engine relight procedure, following the failure of all engines. There are two types of engine relight on the A350. Above flight level 200, the crew will attempt a windmill relight. Whilst below flight level 200, the crew will attempt a starter-assisted relight. For a windmill relight, the first thing the crew must do is maintain the optimum relight speed. As we mentioned before, this can be found on the ECAM procedure. The optimum relight speed ensures enough airflow for the engines to reach the rotation speed needed to compress air for a successful relight. Next, move the thrust levers to idle. If they are not at idle, chances of engine stall or unsuccessful relight increase. Set the engine mode selector to ignition start to activate the combustion chamber igniters. Then, switch both engine masters to off. This ventilates combustion chamber to remove any residual fuel. Then switch both engine masters on at the same time. Monitor these parameters for at least 30 seconds. Note that a successful relight can take up to 2 minutes. If no sign of a relight appears, then the process must be repeated. Switch both masters off for 30 seconds to ventilate the engines before setting the engine masters on again. If there is still no relight, below flight level 200, the ECAM will guide you to perform a starter-assisted relight. The APU would have already started following this failure. This procedure goes as follows. All engine masters should be switched off again for 30 seconds. This ventilates the combustion chamber to remove any residual fuel. Reduce the speed to green dot as you no longer require speed for the windmill relight. APU bleed is then switched on. By the time you have reduced speed and set the bleed on, you have had those 30 seconds for engine ventilation. Now, switch only one engine master on, as the APU bleed can only provide sufficient bleed pressure to relight one engine at a time. Monitor engine parameters, looking for the same things you did in previous relight attempts. If the relight is unsuccessful, then the engine master should be switched off. Then repeat the start process with the other engine. If you are unable to relight the engines, regardless of if you are able to land on a runway or not, it is considered that you are doing a forced landing. That's if you are not ditching. Let's look at this procedure in more detail. The landing gear should be extended to absorb some of the impact. Flaps 1 is recommended for a forced landing. Flaps 2 can be selected if more drag is required. Do not retract the flaps near the ground. Keeping a minimum RAT speed of 140 to 150 knots, depending on your configuration, keeps the aircraft powered until landing. Crew must be alerted with the brace PA. This will initiate their own set of procedures. Increase your flare height and then shut down engines after landing. Consider initiating an evacuation. Before we begin our practical demonstration, let's have a recap. Dual engine failure is extremely rare but can result from environmental, mechanical, or fuel-related causes. The A350 supports dual engine failures with autopilot and structured ECAM guidance. Crew should always aviate, navigate, communicate first. The main priorities are relighting an engine and identifying a suitable landing site. The A350 supports dual engine failures with autopilot and structured ECAM guidance. Continuously reassess the situation to ensure your initial plan remains viable and adjust if needed. The two relight procedures are a windmill relight and a starter-assisted relight. After an unsuccessful relight, switch off the engine for at least 30 seconds to allow sufficient ventilation.
Master warning. All engines failure.
Checked. I have control. Re-engaging autopilot. AP1.
Checked.
Thrust idle, open descent, flight level 100 blue. Speed selected.
Checked.
Heading.
Checked.
Attention! Crew at your stations.
Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. Airbus 123. Dual engine failure. Descending to flight level 100, heading 090. Stand by for intentions.
Okay, confirm the failure.
Engine. All engines failure. This is confirmed on the SD page. Thrust is at 0. N1 is very low. No fuel flow. Failure has been confirmed.
Understood. ECAM actions.
Max gliding distance, no wind. Clean, 2.5 miles per 1,000 feet. Landing config. 1.5 miles per 1,000 feet. Time permits for full procedure.
Affirm. We have time for the full procedure.
RAT man on. Confirm RAT.
Confirmed.
Fuel SD page. Check. There are no signs of a fuel leak. Optimum relight speed, 250 knots.
Roger. We will reduce to 250.
All thrust levers idle. Autopilot, flight director available.
Check. We have AP1 engaged, with 1 FD2.
Diversion initiate.
Okay, let's have a look at our options. We have Cologne 50 miles ahead of us. This heading also keeps Düsseldorf available.
Roger. FMS switching, both on 1. Use VHF1. ATC, notify.
They're notified.
MFD serve. Weather. System 2. Transponder and TCAS. System 2. Engine relight can be attempted.
Affirm.
Approaching or below flight level 250. Windmill start. Engine start selector. Ignition start. All engine masters off 30 seconds, then on.
Engine masters off. Engine masters on. Okay, in the meantime, let's begin looking at our options. Airbus 123, request a weather report for Cologne and Düsseldorf. Okay, with that information, they have similar weather. Cologne has a longer runway, and we can make it even if we don't relight the engines. Are you happy we commit there?
I agree. Let's divert to Cologne.
No sign of engine relight. Engine masters off. Let's begin preparing the diversion to Cologne. Engine masters on. Okay, the windmill relight is unsuccessful. Let's continue with the procedure.
Roger. So, confirm relight unsuccessful.
Confirmed.
All engine masters off. Optimum speed. Green dot. APU bleed. On. Engine master. One at a time.
Engine master 1 on. In the meantime, let's continue preparing for Cologne. At the moment, we are too high to begin an approach now, so we'll need some extra track miles. Unsuccessful start engine 1. Starting engine 2. Continue descent 5,000 feet, QNH 1012, Airbus 123.
FMS is prepared for an ILS approach into runway 31 right.
Great. Before we brief, let's set QNH and review the status.
QNH is set, passing 19,100 feet now.
Checked. Review status.
Status reads, limitations, which is a minimum RAT speed of 140 knots. Deferred procedures is the landing gear gravity extension.
Roger.
We're in alternate law, with protections lost. The fuel penalty considerations are not applicable right now. The INOP systems are on the next page. Important INOP systems include flight control protection, landing gear retraction. We still have one pump per tank. Green and yellow hydraulics are lost. We have lost nose wheel and backup steering, so no vacating the runway. Alerts impacting landing performance include a loss of the inner flaps, outer ailerons, and most spoilers. Remove status.
Remove status.
Status removed.
I will prepare the charts for the ILS approach into Cologne. We can expect a turn inbound shortly. Can I give you radios?
My radios. Fly direct Rerex. Airbus 123.
Okay, let's continue with the ECAM procedure.
Below 10,000 feet. Cabin and cockpit prepare. We have given the crew a NITS briefing. Ram air on. Confirm ram air.
Confirmed.
Ram air on. Pack 1 and 2 off. Bar ref, if avail, set.
QNH 1012.
Type of landing anticipated is a forced landing.
Confirmed.
Max gliding distance, landing config. 1.5 miles per 1,000 feet, which will give us 650 feet per min. For landing, flaps 1. Extension time, 2 minutes.
That's understood.
If more drag required, flaps 2. This takes 2 additional mins.
That's understood.
Landing gear gravity extension. Extension 1 minute. Down.
Check. We will do that shortly.
Cleared for the approach. Airbus 123.
Flaps 1.
Speed checked. Flaps 1.
Gear down using gravity extension.
Roger. Confirm gravity extension.
Confirmed. Lockstar.
Checked. Cleared to land runway 31 right. Airbus 123. When landing gear down or after 50 seconds, landing gear lever down. Min rat speed 140 knots. Min approach speed BLS. Use differential braking. Brake as required without releasing. Ground spoilers. Arm at 2,000 feet. ELT on. Cabin crew advise.
They're advised.
At 500 feet, brace for impact. Order.
Autopilot off.
Attention. Brace. Brace.